Good afternoon. It's Friday the 22nd of August 2014. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host this afternoon, Brian Gerrish. With me in the studio, Mike Robinson.
Good afternoon.
Well, we're just going to say it's hot and sunny outside, pretty unusual for Plymouth, bit of a nip in the air, and a few geese have been seen flying eastward, which means the summer is over.
Would they not be going north?
Well, these geese were clearly going east.
Maybe they're confused by the chemtrail activity or something?
It's possible. We'll report more on those, on the geese migration in due course. But we're going to start off by talking about events with Guy and Linda Taylor at Bodenham Manor. We had hoped to bring you another live broadcast where Guy was going to update the audience himself on what had happened. But he's been called to take Linda to the local police station, and so we're not able to bring you that live session.
I think what we're going to try and do is speak to Guy later on today, and we will, if you keep an eye on the Twitter account, which is at UK Column, we'll let people know when that's going to go out. But we'll aim for having something to put out, a special to put out either just before or just after Doomwatch tonight.
Yeah, right. Well, we can make a bit of comment on what's been going on.
Well, the Hereford Times here calling it an illegal occupation. At least they had the decency to put it in inverted commas. And we actually have a little bit of a video clip to show as we speak here. Really, as this video goes on, the shot will move to another window, and you can see the number of police vans that were there, and of course. Linda yesterday suggesting that there were between 70 and 100 police on site. It's quite a large site, so there were, I think it looks like there are about 20 or 30 police outside the main entrance to the building.
But of course we've had the helicopter overhead on numerous occasions. We actually made some inquiries of the police this morning about the cost of that helicopter operation. We're a little bit surprised to be told, well, they don't actually keep records. Well, this cannot be true because, of course, all aviation hours are fully recorded. So it appears that the moment the public start to ask about the cost of numerous police officers, as many as 70 possibly, police cars, dogs, helicopters, is this an ISIS terrorist incident? No, it's a man trying to defend his property from corrupt banks and criminal courts. The other thing which we probably should point out is that Merseyside Police posted a statement on their website. I'm sorry, I should have been able to bring that up for you, but I can't. But what was pointed out to us is that if you read the police statement, it is inherently biased against Guy Taylor, and is clearly in support of the people that, of course, Guy is saying are carrying out criminal activities. So just fantastic that in this day of shrinking police budgets, we have a man who's been totally peaceful in his own property, but it takes 70 police to kick in doors and windows. It takes helicopters, it takes police vehicles to police that incident.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many, Mike?
I'm still staggered, well, maybe not staggered, I'm not really surprised that the people that were taking part in that operation weren't actually asking more questions, because with all the dialogue that had been going on with the police in the days leading up to that, I can't imagine that there was anybody actually taking part in that operation that didn't understand that there was a significant civil dispute going on behind that. Now, of course, people in the chat box saying that this was a civil matter. The police are arguing that this was not a civil matter, that it was a criminal matter because it was criminal trespass. And also they are accusing Guy of having broken into a caravan on the site, which was owned by the person who appears to have bought the property through the unlawful auction which took place. So Guy is apparently charged with probably at least criminal damage, if not burglary, and that was what Linda was hinting at yesterday.
Right, but we've no idea why the police would want to be interviewing Linda. because of course she was well clear of the site at the time the police raid took place. So presumably this is police intimidation at work, get people down to the police station. If she's like a lady who reported to us over the last few days, she had gone into a police station to report massive fraud. She had 3 other members of the public there to support her. So a multi-million-pound fraud. The particular lady was apprehended at the police station, told she was being arrested. The police were unable to tell her what the charge was, but she was then taken below ground to cells and strip searched by 3 police women. So overseas viewers, as we're saying really more frequently, welcome to David Cameron's Britain 2014, the police criminal out of control, supporting criminal courts. And of course, if you're a member of the public peaceably standing up for your rights, you can expect to be arrested on any charge the police care to produce, and presumably later strip searched. Well, we're going to focus on the police. There's quite a bit of material in the press today, and this is an article from the Mail. We found this very interesting. Yesterday we reported, of course, about the actions of Grant Payne, who'd been filming workers in a police camera van that was in Rhondda, and as a result of him filming the incident, it was shared more than 64,000 times. And the police in the vehicle got stroppy. Well, actually, it wasn't clear whether they were police in the vehicle. But here we are now with the Mail reporting another incident, and this is actually up in Glasgow. So a member of the public saw police. Here they are in high visibility jackets, but they were sitting in an unmarked car, absolutely no marks on that car at all. And what they were doing was using a speed camera. So the member of the public confronted them, and of course the person who did the videoing said quite rightly that any vans or other vehicles used for safety camera deployment should be clearly identifiable as such. The Daily Record put out the Scottish Government's own advice on the subject, but there we had the police clearly acting in a deceitful and criminal way. And what we'd like to say, this is another issue. This is not Police Scotland responsible, because who's ultimately responsible for police officers and police officers breaking the law in Scotland? Well, it's none other than Sir Stephen House himself, Chief Constable of Police Scotland. So where does it go from there? Well, of course, the Mail also been reporting that hundreds of police have been disciplined for misbehaving on Facebook and Twitter. Notice the language, misbehaving. In fact, they've been doing all sorts of things, sending friend requests to victims of crime, making racist statements, intimidation, foul language, a whole range of things.
I mean, sending a friend request to a victim of crime, that must be a form of intimidation.
Intimidation and direct harassment.
So, I mean, that's at the very least misconduct, is it not?
One would have thought so.
But it's misbehaviour.
It's misbehaviour, and of course, if you read the article, a lot of what they're talking about is that many of these police officers, men and women, were pensioned off. So they allow them to slide out of the police force. What action is taken? Where they
become bailiffs, no doubt.
A lot of them join private security firms or indeed become bailiffs. But again, let's focus on who's responsible for this sort of thing. And in the article, it directly mentions the College of Policing. And here we are, the Chief Executive Officer, Alex Marshall. You can read his glowing CV. Of course, he spent considerable time in Thames Valley Police Force. Remember, that is the police force that failed to take any substantive action to investigate serious sexual and physical abuse of youngsters at Oxford and Cherwell Valley College. Let's see what this man has to say about the behaviour of police officers. I want to read this in full because the language is important. So, Chief Constable Alex Marshall, Chief Executive of the College of Policing, said, People working in policing must always be mindful of the high standards that the police expect from us. The public expect from us. Our Code of Ethics, which was launched last year, sets out the standards which everyone in the service should strive to uphold, whether at work or away from work, online or offline. The vast majority of police officers and staff uphold these high standards and in many cases are responsible for challenging and reporting colleagues who act improperly or unlawfully. Where people working in policing have undermined their own reputation or that of the wider service, they must face appropriate action. These figures include relatively minor matters which can be dealt with by management advice through to cases of misconduct which quite rightly have resulted in officers and staff losing their jobs. There's no place in policing for officers who abuse the trust placed in us by the public. Well, we'd like to say, so Mr. Marshall, what does this politically correct newspeak actually mean you're going to do? And does it mean that officers are actually going to be brought to trial in front of juries of the public who are best placed to decide whether they are guilty or not and what their punishment should be? We had a contact from a member of the public this morning saying to us how important they thought it was that we started to focus on newspeak and politically correct speak, because this is the smokescreen by which local authorities and public agencies are now hiding to disguise the corruption which is clearly present. And we can move on from the police to have a look at judges. So the Express here quite nicely now starting to talk about the scandal of judges who shame justice. Now remember, we have a government at the moment that wants courts to simply be a judge in a room, and here is the Express talking about the number of judges who have been pulled up for some kind of inappropriate behaviour. So they're talking about a total of 29 members of the judiciary being sacked, including a coroner and 6 tribunal panel members. And look at the offences ranging from inappropriate behaviour or comments, professional misconduct, getting into trouble with the law, 25 resigned, that's the escape route, 2 judges and 18 magistrates. Judges were also in trouble for criticising foreign governments, attacking the UK's immigration system, and one was accused of having an affair with a male prostitute. I think I'm right in saying one South Wales judge invited his young male prostitute to sit alongside him in court. So a total of 54 who'd left under a cloud is up from 46 in the year 2009-10 and 43 in 2008-9. So have we got confidence that our courts are being properly operated by judges? Well, of course we haven't. And even senior barristers contacting the UK column are pointing out that not even barristers fully understand how judges are selected in the first place. So we seem to have something of a rather devious and dark gentleman's club presiding over increasingly secret courts. And of course, if Kenneth Clarke had his way, all of the courts would be secret. Take a look at this gentleman, Judge Ian Trigger. Now we'd just bring a little bit of analysis into this, because the Express had this to say: another judge was given formal advice after he criticised Britain's lax immigration policy while sentencing a Jamaican drug dealer. Judge Ian Trigger had said, people like you, and there are literally hundreds of thousands of people like you, come to these shores to avail themselves of the general welfare benefits that exist here. And apparently Judge Trigger was disciplined for intervening in the political process. Now we'd like to say to people, we think you should really consider what's being said here, because to us it's actually identifying that the whole of the court system itself is a political process, and this judge simply made the mistake of putting his own views into that political process. may not be correct, but do have a look at this article yourself. So we are just wondering whether we are now in the situation where, of course, the courts are controlled by the political system, Westminster, and we have Westminster rapidly declaring that it has complete sovereignty over the country rather than the Queen. Let's contrast that with actions in Scotland, because of course Robert Greene was discriminated in court by a sheriff who really went for him because he said basically, you're an Englishman and you've got no business to be shooting your mouth off in Scotland. I'm paraphrasing the exact event, but Robert made a complaint about this bias by a Scottish sheriff, but of course his complaint was not upheld. So we have this type of judiciary in Scotland, and Robert Greene, whose only crime is to campaign for the safety of children from abuse, is now on his 94th day of house arrest. And we'll reinforce this business of making up law on the hoof. This was kindly sent to us this morning. It's a Department for Education document talking about parental responsibility measures for school attendance and behaviour. But the person who sent it to us was interested that it was basically saying that the guidance in the document does not have the force of law, but there's an expectation that it will be followed unless there's good reason to depart from it. And the member of the public felt that we'd got a blurring of what was actually law and not law, and he was pointing out that many people will receive this type of guidance believing it is law when quite clearly it is not law.
Well, even worse, the police and social services will assume that it is law when quite clearly it is not law, and therefore where do you stand whenever they appear on your doorstep handing out fines or attempting to take your children away for not having them attend school?
Never sign anything and do not give your consent is the simple start point. But let's follow this through. This is talking about what's been happening in UK. We reported yesterday on the James Foley video. This was an extremely unpleasant video of supposedly a beheading of James Foley. And we pointed out that the Met Police had made a public media statement that the viewing, downloading or disseminating of this video might be an offence under the Terrorism Act 2008. And we pointed out that UK Column had dared to ask why this was the case. Yesterday we received no substantive reply and a lot of filibustering and smokescreen. Today UK Column went back to the Met Police, and this is where we got. So we're back on the question that watching, disseminating or downloading the James Foley execution may be offence under the Terrorist Act. We asked which part of the Terrorist Act would this statement apply? Which part of the Act was it? And this is the reply that we got today at 12:15. They said that the Met statement was based on common sense, that any law can involve judgment. We're just saying that people should be careful, and we felt it was a gentle, helpful statement. Now, I think we'd like to say just what does this touchy-feely police newspeak mean? And is it the case that our anti-terrorism measures are also so vague? But this is really making up law on the hoof, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So we're not the only ones picking up on this, and thank you very much to the viewer who emailed us. This was circulated via email. I saw the YouTube clip last night leading up to the beheading of Mr. Wright Foley. Was it in Syria? My Lord, we have a job on our hands. There are so many YouTube clips of it. Now, interestingly, the person sending this email immediately picks up on the threat apparently posed from this video, if the video is true. Goes on to talk about the export of arms to Iraq, to the Kurds, but says, quite rightly, there should have been a public commons debate and vote on this, not an express decision made. We're not spending money on protecting our own country. What are we doing? And if we get down to the bottom, what are the priorities of this government? Should it not be the priority of the people here? And I think this person is spot on. And let's remember who we are talking about. The government doesn't mean anything. Of course, the government only operates by the actions of people. And I think you've always liked this little photograph, Mike, of these two idiots laughing and joking in Westminster. But let's think about it. These are the men making decisions at the moment. And we've also like to thank a viewer who said to us, it's interesting that it's gone quiet on Iraq at the moment. And we put together a little update which we thought might be helpful for people. So 14th of August, we had The Guardian saying that the UK was preparing to supply arms directly to Kurdish forces fighting ISIS. No debate in Parliament. Philip Hammond will be telling his US counterparts in Brussels on Friday that Britain is prepared to join France in arming the Kurds.
Well,
have any MPs discussed this?
But why would we need a debate, Brian? Because we didn't need a debate in order to join in a 50-year defence partnership with in the first place. So surely any action follows from that. There's no debate needed for that either, is there?
No. So we've literally got King Cameron, when he can stop eating his ice cream, simply deciding that we're going to start arming the Kurds. Don't bother to talk to the MPs or the cabinet or the backbenchers alike, and certainly don't bother to tell the British public.
Because that's democracy.
Possibly. So here we are, Reuters, 14th of August again, citing Britain's trade envoy to Iraq, Emma Nicholson. The paper said that officers from the Special Air Service, the Army's Special Forces Regiment, were working with US troops to gather intelligence and had been in Iraq for about 6 weeks. When asked about the newspaper report, a spokesman for Britain's Ministry of Defence said it did not comment on Special Forces operations. Now, I fully appreciate that Special Forces operations have an inherent secrecy about them, otherwise they can't work. But what we've got happening again here is, of course, military being put into a dangerous environment, a war environment, and this is simply being done, on a private telephone from David Cameron. We've got another one here from Reuters. I beg your pardon, I think we've got a repeat of that one that's come up actually. So let's bring you through onto The Guardian, 18th of August 2014. And what it's saying is that Britain is now stepping up its role in Iraq as warplanes monitor ISIS positions, and we're monitoring positions deep in Iraq. It's pretty amazing. And it goes on because now we've got more special forces heading for Iraq. So we're through to the 19th of August 2014. The Daily Mail has revealed that a further 150 Special Forces troops will be deployed to Iraq later this week. The deployment includes a number of signals specialists and electronics experts with equipment capable of intercepting voice transmissions at a distance of more than 150 miles. And there's talk about the 18th UKSF Signals Regiment and reference to a new SBS unit that will be used to monitor sensitive areas of the Jordanian border. Well, New York Times seems to have got closer to things because it's reporting on the 22nd of August that a year ago Parliament had denied Mr Cameron authorisation for military intervention in Syria, and that cuts in defence spending have eroded what Mr Cameron calls Britain's military prowess. And they go on to say, point out that Cameron is now saying that Britain is not going to get involved in another war in Iraq, well, apart from the troops that have already been put in. But he said as American warplanes and military strategists again took the lead.
So we're not going to be putting boots on the ground, but we have put boots on the ground. So which is it? Is he just a congenital liar?
I believe so, Mike.
Right.
Yeah. And of course, who is going to take the bulk of the risk? Well, it's going to be American armed forces. We're continually pointing this out. So David Cameron slaughters the British military until the capability to act effectively overseas is almost gone. And then he stands on the world stage calling for military action. And of course, who is going to take the brunt of that action? It's going to be American men and women in service.
Right, so in the UK and in the United States, we have two national leaders who consider themselves to be monarchs, effectively. And each of them is deciding to deploy the military as an executive action without consultation with the relevant Congress or Parliament, whichever it happens to be.
Yeah.
And you might say that in both Congress and in Parliament, we've got a bunch of people who are lily-livered, have no guts, they're not prepared to stand up for any kind of decency or morality. But at least in the United States, they're attempting to hold Obama to account on this issue, where they're saying quite clearly that you have no entitlement to deploy the military without first seeking congressional approval. Where is the similar outrage with MPs in this country?
Well, Mike, as I've said before live, and I'm very happy to do it again, we've got particularly retired senior officers dripping in gold braid and medals who are simply frightened to come up and criticise the government, so they've got their Sir status. They're now at home with a wife or playing golf, whatever they do with their time. They are too scared to speak out. And of course, the serving officers have only got their minds on their pensions and promotion into the peerage. So they're not speaking out either. So the military at the moment, gutless at the top level. And of course, the politicians really have no idea what's going on. I thought we'd sum it up in a bit of a robust way, so perhaps we could meet the bloated British Prime Minister. Let's remind ourselves about what this man is really about, sitting on the beach. Bloated is the only word I could use. Making decisions, presumably on a mobile phone, to deploy troops and weapons overseas. So we can meet some of the victims of the Tory foreign policy. And then I think we need to ask a question. Who is this man working for? Is it actually the public, or is this man bought and paid for by bankers and arms manufacturers? And I've got a feeling it's the bankers and the arms manufacturers.
Well, he clearly likes a beer, and I wonder when he came to the meeting yesterday, or the day before yesterday, if he had left his children in the pub.
Quite possibly. I hope he brought his shirt with him, that's for sure. Well, we're delighted to say that we are going to up the tweeting from the UK column, and we felt the best person to tweet would be Beaky. Beaky was a bit upset about that because, being a parrot, the parrot would rather talk. But here was the first tweet that went out as corrupt, paedophilic and morally bankrupt Westminster is ever more clearly exposed. The good men and women in Britain must fight the new battle of Britain. And there is a new battle raging for this country, and it's up to all good men and women, whatever nationality or colour or religion, to stand up and go for the truth. And unless we deal with Westminster, we're in for big trouble. And it's not only us saying this, because Beaky also let loose on the fact that Lord Jenny Jones, Green Party, had written an article, I believe in the Telegraph, in which she's effectively describing the Cameron government as a vile, oppressive and plain cruel legislation, to which we say, correct, no wonder, as we look at the state of the nation. So it's not just us. It appears that we've now got people in the Lords picking up on the fact we're being ruled by what? Domestic terrorists, I think.
Indeed. So anybody wanting to follow Beaky's tweets, it's at Brian G UKC. Okay.
Well, there we are.
There we are.
So I believe that South Wales is in for a surprise.
Well, not too much of a surprise, but this is definitely an opportunity for some flying columns to get down there. I think we may have to make an appearance for one of these days. 4th to the 5th of September, the NATO summit. So what are they saying about it? NATO is an international military and political alliance keeping 900 million citizens across the world safe and secure.
Mike, I'm interested by the typeset there. That's a very cartoonish.
Well, this
type.
this actually was a little cartoony animation. So it started off with the colours being coloured in by a crayon, sort of thing.
Right, but
sort of common purpose style crayon being used.
Who has actually produced that animation in such a childish form?
Oh, Number 10.
Number 10.
Yes.
So we're now making NATO a sort of children's TV programme.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. So
Cabbage Patch.
So there you go. There's the website to go to, www.gov.uk/NATO Wales. I think some people need to be at this event asking people questions if they can as they go in and out. Certainly, I'm sure there may be a protest because, after all, let's just remember, of course, NATO, not responsible at all for bombing Libya or Iraq or any of these kind of countries. And I just thought I'd contrast this safety that NATO provides 900 million people around the world with this, because of course NATO money funded from the taxpayer in armaments is going to blow up countries, and then of course we're very generous because we then send in UK aid, more taxpayer money, and what do we buy these people? Do we rebuild their infrastructure? Do we buy them some kitchen sets and give them some tonnage of a highly nutritious peanut-based food? So what are we going for? Mass anaphylactic shock. Clearly we're not going to provide them with the EpiPens that they might need to deal with if there's anybody with peanut allergy there, and some tents. So
it's obscene, isn't it? The word is obscene.
This
really.
tweet I found absolutely obscene. Justine Greening pushing out this tweet, how brilliant Britain is for delivering food, tents and cooking to a country that we bombed into the Stone Age. I'm sorry, but I think Justine Greening needs her head examined.
Well, can we say if anybody fancies responding to a tweet, I think that would be very appropriate. It's very clear to us that as David Cameron lies on the beach, suntanning his bloated body, of course, he's very pleased that he's got 763,000 people or thereabouts following his tweets. It's about time the millions of British people put the correct tweets back in his direction, and perhaps Justine Greening.
In the meantime, I believe the latest figure in Ukraine is 150,000 people displaced as a result of the action going on there, and Russia accusing Kiev of refusing to allow humanitarian aid into that country. Now, of course, Russia not in any way responsible for the suffering of the people that have been displaced in Ukraine. So there isn't quite the same hypocrisy over the fact that they're providing aid as there is from Justine Greening. But anyway, they've accused Kiev of deliberately holding up the delivery of humanitarian aid. They've said the time is up, no more excuses to delay, and they're pushing in more trucks, 34 vehicles, and pushing aid into the country. I don't believe that up to this point anybody has dared to suggest that this is some kind of covert military operation. But in the meantime, even the fact that they were having trouble getting into the country, I think, is a disgrace.
Yeah,
under the circumstances.
Well, who's at the back of the political arena? This is what it comes down to. Is it David Cameron and the other MPs driving policy, or somebody else doing it?
Well, I was just fascinated by this little thing because Labour Party conference coming up in September. The event starts on the 21st of September, so here's another opportunity for some flying columns to go and get some interviews, go and hassle some people with a video camera. But what fascinated me is that the Fabian Society has published the Fringe timetable, including Fabian Society meetings. But I wanted to have a look at some of the organisations that are backing this up, because I'm really fascinated that these supposedly independent organisations would be supporting the Fabian Society in this way. So look at the types of people that we have here. The Alzheimer's Society. So we think when we give our money to the Alzheimer's Society or Oxfam or the World Wildlife Fund, we think we're giving money to organisations that are going to be using it every penny for the campaign that they happen to be on, or for the research into Alzheimer's that they might be doing. But no, in fact, they're funneling in turn some of their money into the Fabian Society. And this is the list of supporters for the Fringe meetings at the Labour Party conference, which is being organised by the Fabians. So I just wanted to highlight that. And maybe some people would like to ask some of these organisations questions like how much money are they giving and this kind of thing.
Indeed. We'd certainly be interested in anybody who's been a long-term supporters of the Alzheimer's Society. What would they say to the fact that we're showing very clearly here that they are politically active? How much of public donations are they now spending politically as opposed to helping individuals suffering Alzheimer's?
But moving on to economy.
I was just saying, we're going to have a slightly green slide here. It's lightening up a bit. Or are you about to hit us again?
Possibly.
Right. Okay.
A few weeks ago, we pointed out how the BRICS countries, and particularly China, investing in infrastructure right around the world. Many reasons for China wanting to do that in particular, not least because they want to convert some of their worthless dollar reserves into something with real physical value. But one of the projects that we highlighted a few weeks ago was this plan for a new canal between the Atlantic and the Pacific running through Guatemala. And Guatemala being only the second only to Haiti in terms of poverty in the region, massive opportunity for the people of that country to gain employment. Well, in fact, it's not just on that side of the Atlantic that this type of initiative is moving forward, because in Egypt, as we know, racked by civil conflict in recent years, they've been bitten by the bug as well, and they've decided that what is needed is a national mobilisation of the type you might see at a time of war, in fact. But instead of mobilising people to go and kill some other people, they're mobilising people to build a new canal, and this is Suez 2. And the Egyptian Army Corps of Engineers is behind this, and they have set up a website which is giving daily updates on the progress of the project. 43 companies in Egypt have started work on this new canal. 13.6 million cubic metres of earth moved already, and according to the armed forces, and they are calling on all Egyptians up to the age of 45 to apply for jobs in this and other national projects. So that's a pretty spectacular contrast of this type of development.
So we've got a very poor country, a lot of problems to deal with, but the politicians in Egypt have got the vision and the drive to say, basically, let's get up and do something on a grand scale.
Well, indeed, and what I'm highlighting here is the contrast, the motivations between some of these governments in the developing world and the BRICS nations, and what is being driven by this BRICS agreement that took place a number of weeks ago. For the Development Bank and so on, and the sort of positive outlook on life that some of these nations are presenting, and contrast that with David Cameron. Now, of course, the Office for National Statistics has come out with a new figure telling us how great it is back in Britain now, because young jobless are finding work at unprecedented rates, and youth unemployment is at a 10-year low. Unfortunately, that was today, but unfortunately yesterday, The Guardian pointing out that Generation Rent suffers 10% drop in wages. So here we have the youth earnings for 18 to 21-year-olds dropped by 10.3% since 2010. So again, I just want to highlight and sort of contrast this culture which is being driven in this country by David Cameron and his government of coffee serving and shelf stacking type jobs as being, this is great, our young have got great jobs. Contrast that with what's going on in Guatemala, what's going on in Egypt and in the developing world, where a project of the scale of a second Suez Canal is going to give people apprenticeships, it's going to give people training, it's going to give people jobs for potentially for decades. Yeah. It makes me rather irate with this government telling us that they've got a long-term economic plan for this country, when that plan clearly is going to end in disaster.
Rather irate is a sort of low-grade Mike Robinson description of being pretty angry, really.
Nuclear.
Absolutely true.
Anyway, yes, this little article from Natural Society, I don't really want to focus too much on the content of the article itself. It's another article criticising Nestle for using GMO in baby food, and Nestle's been under attack for many, many years, justifiably, for what they've been doing with baby food over the years and other things, and comments about water and so on. But There was a quote from Nestle in here that I just wanted to let people see because I just thought it was pretty spectacular. At Nestle, we believe infant nutrition is more than just baby food and infant formula. It's about caring for your child from pregnancy to toddler through the development milestones to have a healthy start for a healthy future. What do you think? What do you think of that, Brian?
Well, I think it's going to make our life easier because if you're thinking of having children, you haven't got to worry about you're the person looking after them. Nestle's going to do it for them. That's for you. Sorry.
Yeah. So I haven't fallen off the perch or something. That is pretty much what's being said there.
Yeah. Trust us. We're Nestle. We know exactly what we're going to feed your infant. And of course, if you're in Scotland, you're going to say trust Alex Salmon because he's going to have a social worker next to every child. And if you're south of the border, well, you don't want to trust this lady, Theresa May. We don't know whether she's on holes at the moment or she's at her desk because it's a national security issue as to whether she's on holiday or at her desk. So the Home Office won't tell us. Why are we interested in Theresa May? Well, we're interested in the fact there is still no full and proper investigation into child abuse. I'm sorry, I don't know why we've lost that one. What flashed up on your screen there was Melanie Shaw, of course. So while Theresa May is presumably in her bikini, somewhere hot and sunny, Melanie Shaw is sitting in a prison cell for 23.5 hours per day. We do understand that there may shortly be an approach for bail. If bail was to be given, we understand it would still be on quite onerous conditions. But at the moment, we've no further news. But what we can say is that Melanie, who endured unbelievable abuse as a child and unbelievable abuse within the so-called care system of Beechwood Children's Home in Nottingham, was brave enough to come forward as a whistleblower. And what has Theresa May and the British state done? They have locked her up in virtual solitary confinement in what is effectively a high security private prison run by a private company called Sodexo. If you feel angry about this and try to phone HM Prison Peterborough, you're probably going to be disappointed because it's been leaked that prison staff themselves have said that the number of people manning telephones has been cut. So you're probably going to go round in an automated system. If you feel angry, the person to contact really is the Home Secretary, Theresa May, but we'll leave that up to you.
Okay, Doomwatch tonight, bit of a different programme because, of course, Peterborough FM radio is at the Peterborough Beer Festival all week this week. They have been. And so Doomwatch is going to be coming from the Beer Festival as an outside broadcast. Malcolm Massey is there giving them a hand, so not sure whether that's going to be wholly behind the camera or whether he'll manage to duck out in front of the camera for at least part of that.
For the Beer Festival.
Well, he is there for the... Yes, well, I'm sure he will enjoy the Beer Festival as well later on.
We promised Malcolm we wouldn't mention the Beer Festival, so I'm sorry about that, I have, but we understand there's a very important beer festival happening in the vicinity of the Doomwatch team.
Indeed. So slightly different programme tonight, but do join us at 6 o'clock for that. We are going to try and get in contact with Guy this afternoon, and if we do manage to get something recorded with him, we will tweet that out later on and hopefully play that out either side of Doomwatch when that happens.
Of course, and remember the UK column does not condone drinking in any form, and if you feel the need to drink, you should restrict yourself to at least 1 or 2 units as recommended by the government's health watchdog. There you are, Malcolm. Thanks very much for joining us. It is, of course, Bank Holiday weekend. We will be back on Tuesday, the 26th of August.
Well, we'll be back, but you won't.
Mike and Louise will be back on the 26th of August 2014. Thanks for joining us. Don't sit back in your deck chairs over the weekend. Get out there emailing, talking, sending letters, and generally bringing the new battle of Britain to the people who really need to be tackled, which is our own politicians. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
See ya.